A family of three met with a tragic accident during their travels, and upon awakening, they found themselves ensnared in the narrative of a tale involving false heiresses. My biological parents transformed into my adoptive guardians, and I became the protagonist of an abusive storyline. The system proclaimed that by accumulating emotional distress points according to the original premise, we could return to the real world, and in addition, we would be rewarded with a substantial sum of money. We were utterly elated. That very day, we packed our belongings and accompanied my parents to the doorstep of the affluent family. The false heiress gazed at me, her eyes immediately reddening. Since my sister has returned, then I shall take my leave. I smacked my lips and pulled her back, promptly presenting my parents before the wealthy couple. Uncle and Auntie, I understand that you are my biological parents, but my adoptive parents have raised me for so many years, and I am undoubtedly closer to them. Henceforth, my adoptive parents will reside with me here, and you will certainly agree to this, won't you? The system screeched. Sister, what are you doing? Are they bullying you? I should have lowered my head, tears brimming in my eyes, and timidly said, It's all right. I have lived with my sister and parents for so long, I should belong here. In the next moment, a notification chimed. Heart-wrenching value 5. The system. Upon hearing the system's notification, our family of three nearly burst into laughter. Fortunately, we were close enough to pinch each other, barely restraining ourselves. You, Shun Yenin. What do you mean by this? Mom and Dad brought you back, and you still want to bring your poor father and mother? You call them Mom and Dad, while referring to your biological parents as Uncle and Aunt? This person pointed at me, his previously handsome face contorted with disdain. It was my affluent brother, Shun Maching. Indeed, glancing at my wealthy parents, I noticed their eyes were reddened, and their outstretched arms, yearning to embrace me, hesitated. In truth, my willingness to raise their heart-wrenching value stemmed from my conviction that the original character's wealthy parents still loved her. After all, before the original character went missing, she was their little princess, the center of their world. However, this love was now a matter of priority. While they loved the original character, they undeniably adored the fake heiress even more. If I were to develop according to the original setting, the genuine heiress would be repeatedly victimized by the false one, with the affluent parents continually favoring the latter, ultimately sending the true heiress off to a boarding school to behave. The original character, tormented and trapped between realms of humanity and the afterlife, eventually succumbed to despair and committed suicide. After her death, the family would gather in a pitiful display of grief. I truly do not comprehend why, despite their love, they only learn to cherish when faced with loss. I refuse to be a victim of this indignation. I cleared my throat awkwardly. I apologize, but I'm not accustomed to calling strangers Mom and Dad. I've been calling them that for over a decade. It's a habit I can't change overnight. Then, turning to the older brother, I continued, I am Lin Yenin, clearly stated in my household registration. I am a young lady of the Shin family. Haven't I been well taken care of at home? I cast a deliberate glance at Shin Sisi beside me, sending a subtle signal to my parents. They understood in an instant. My mother feigned anger. You little brat. You still won't change your address in front of your biological parents. Just wait until I give you a good beating. I made a face and dashed behind my father. He looked at her, shielding me with his presence. Oh, Myling, let Nin call herself what she wishes. Observing our playful banter, the wealthy parents took a few awkward steps back. Shin Sisi, caught off guard by this turn of events, found herself locked in a silent standoff with Shin Maching. Immediately after, another system notification chimed. Heart-wrenching value 10. I couldn't help but smile. It was delightful. In previous tales of genuine and fake heiresses, the true one returned only to be isolated, watching the family bask in warmth, while now, our family of three isolated them entirely. My affluent parents, Shin Hongyuan and Zhao Xiuji, were the first to break the ice. Zhao Xiuji attempted to embrace me. Enin, you are my daughter of the Shin family. You must take the Shin surname from now on. I smirked inwardly. Their words sounded sweet now because Shin Sisi had yet to reveal her true colors. I pretended to ponder, changing my surname to Shin Isnd impossible. But why not hold a press conference to announce that I am the true daughter of the Shin family, while Shin Sisi is merely an adopted orphan? Hearing this, Shin Sisi's voice turned whiny. Mommy and Daddy, sister is right. You should hold a press conference. That way, as her words trailed off, she began to sob uncontrollably. The object of Zhao Xiuji's intended embrace immediately shifted to Shin Maching and Shin Hongyuan, who surrounded her, showering her with comfort. I sighed at the opportune moment. This was splendid. Then let us not change anything. I'll move in with my parents. You can let Shin Sisi continue living here. That way, it's fair. With this, Shin Hongyuan and Zhao Xiuji were rendered speechless. Shin Sisi finally composed herself. Shin Hongyuan and Zhao Xiuji approached me, one on each side, affectionately grasping my arms. Anan, choose a room with us. Pick whichever you like. We kept your childhood room for you. If we hadn't lost you gazing at their expressions of guilt and regret, I chose not to pull away. After all, a chance for intimate contact was essential. The deeper the feelings, the better the torment, right? As soon as we reached upstairs, Shin Sisi flung open a door, revealing a room adorned in pink, resembling a princess's chamber. She smiled innocently, sister. This is my room, the sunniest one. Sisi will let you have it.
Sisi.
You need this sunny room because of your health. How can you give it to her? Before I could voice my thoughts, Shen Maching grew agitated.
Ha!
Giving up a room, a classic trope of the genuine versus fake heiress narrative. After Shin Sisi's proclamation, although Shin father and mother didn't explicitly state their bias like Shin Maching, their words subtly favored Shin Sisi. Ultimately, the original character chose the smallest, dimmest, and most remote room. But I am not the original character. I have no interest in which room I occupy. Suddenly, I broke free from Shin father and mother's grasp and dragged my parents to the largest master bedroom. I knew this was Shin father and mother's room. I swung the door open and pulled my parents inside. Parents, this room is enormous. You two should live in here. I turned to Shin father and mother. Uncle and auntie, my parents have worked tirelessly for half their lives to raise me until I was 18. They always put me first, and now they're exhausted. This room is spacious and bright. Let my parents have it. Lin Yenin, are you out of your mind? This is our parents' room. Shin Maching exploded first. Shin Sisi exclaimed in shock. Sister, how can you uncle and auntie? Is that unacceptable? I interrupted her, turning my gaze back to Shin father and mother. For all these years, they've given me a home, a warm meal, and a piece of clothing. I remember you once told me to be grateful. Gratitude and reciprocation were indeed the first stories they told the original character during her childhood. Back then, the original character had clung to them. Surely, they must feel the pang of guilt now. Shin mother took a deep breath, appearing suddenly aged, and with great difficulty waved her hand, her voice hoarse. Let them stay. We'll move. Thank you, uncle and auntie. You're truly wonderful. My parents caught my signal, and my mother, slightly flustered, rubbed her hands together, addressing Shin mother, sister. Thank you, this child understands. All those years of care haven't been in vain. My father nodded immediately, his tone solid and grounded. Yes. It's good to enjoy a bit of comfort now. But Anin is your child. She will surely honor you. The three of us stood together, harmonizing perfectly, completely isolating Shin father and mother from the conversation. I gleefully pulled my parents inside, slamming the door behind us with a resounding thud, effectively shutting them out. Heart-wrenching value 20. The system emitted a sharp alarm. Host, what is this operation? I've never seen anything like it before. As I busied myself organizing my parents' belongings, I mused. Don't understand? This is called precise targeting, learning to manipulate their guilt and expectations. My mother reclined on the large bed and asked, Enen, what is the heart-wrenching value now? I calculated briefly. It's already 35. My father was astonished. So fast. It seems we won't be long before we return. Then we must enjoy this grand villa to the fullest. I scoffed lightly. Quite splendid. The task was complete. Not only could we return with a reward, but we could also allow my parents to relish a lavish lifestyle they had never experienced. Soon it was time for dinner. My parents and I descended the stairs, with Shin father and mother positioned between us, leaving 2 seats across. Clearly, they intended for me to sit beside them. I saw no reason to be coy and plopped down. Gazing at the array of unfamiliar dishes before me, I laughed. The original character had been mocked by Shin Sisi for never having seen such delicacies and could only bury her head in rice, while Shin father and mother never defended her. This time, I decided to take the initiative.
Wow.
So much food. It seems that Sister Sisi has truly lived well these past years. My parents and I have never tasted anything like this. Simbu paused momentarily, then swiftly placed a piece of truffle onto my plate, her voice trembling as she urged, "And do eat more." Yet, I paid no heed to her and directly carried the caviar from the table to my parents, exclaiming, "Mom and Dad, I've seen this before. It's caviar. Please indulge, it's good for your health." My mother smiled broadly, her face wrinkling with delight. "Oh dear, why have you brought everything over?" She turned to my older sister. "Look at this child, so filial." Meanwhile, Shun's mother stood frozen, her hand, still clutching the piece of truffle, suspended in midair, unable to retract it or offer it. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. I then noticed the exquisite red wine beside Shun's father. It appeared delightful. I casually took it and presented it to my father. "Dad, this wine looks splendid. Do give it a try." He smacked his lips in approval, cheerfully proclaiming, "Well, I must say, it's quite delightful. You all should have some too." Lin Yenin, this is rather excessive, don't you think? Your parents are still here. Shun Machin stood up in distress, his finger trembling as he pointed at me. I immediately lowered my gaze, my eyes reddening as I addressed Shun's parents. "Uncle, Auntie, I sincerely apologize. I have never encountered such delicacies before and got a bit overly excited. I often jest with my parents like this and momentarily forgot you were present." Hearing this, Shun's mother quickly urged Shinmachin to be quiet. "It's all right, Enin, we can take our time to adjust." I glanced upwards and noticed my score had risen by another 10. The previously silent Shin Sisi finally spoke. "Sister, did you just finish your college entrance examination too? The results are out tomorrow. Your scores must be commendable, right?" "Oh, I almost forgot," I replied while eating. It was fairly average, top 3 in the province. I couldn't deny that the original owner of this body was both talented and diligent, consistently ranking among the top 3 in mock exams. Upon hearing my words, Shin Sisi's smile widened. Shun Machin scoffed. "Well, that means not too impressive. Sisi ranked in the top 100 in the mock exams." Shun's father cleared his throat, and then, "It's alright if the results aren't stellar. The Shun family can still support you." My family couldn't help but chuckle at that. The meal concluded with warmth and satisfaction among the 3 of us, while Shun's parents struggled to interject, finding the taste rather bland. The next day, I awoke late from the comfort of the large bed, finally descending around 10 o'clock, only to find the living room crowded with journalists armed with cameras. Upon noticing my arrival, they rushed towards me. "Lin Yenin, as this year's top scorer in the college entrance examination, do you have any experiences to share? How have you held yourself accountable over the past 3 years? May we interview your parents?"
I almost forgot about this.
In the original narrative, the protagonist was the top scorer, but when reporters came to interview, Shin Sisi fell ill, leaving the original owner to face the journalists alone. However, Shun's parents stood proudly behind me, quickly adjusting their attire. Shun's father even cleared his throat, preparing to speak. I swiftly sidestepped them, pulling my plainly dressed parents into the frame, beaming, "Of course. Here are my parents, who have tirelessly raised me for over a decade. It's only fitting to interview them." My mother fidgeted nervously with her clothes, lacking experience. "Well, mainly it's because the child is understanding and eager to learn." My father, with his simple sincerity, nodded, "Yes, yes, the child knows to work hard." I affectionately linked arms with them, and the 3 of us appeared harmonious in front of the camera. Meanwhile, Shun's parents stood aside, their smiles frozen, hands awkwardly suspended in midair. Shun's father's face shifted from red to pale, while Shun's mother gazed at our close-knit display, her eyes filled with disappointment and discomfort. Once the reporters departed, Shun's father could no longer contain himself, frowning as he coldly questioned, "Enin, we are your biological parents. What was that all about just now?" I felt a mix of amusement and anger. Was this family truly so shameless and hypocritical? Yet I maintained a face of hurt and understanding. "Uncle, Auntie, didn't you say we must consider Cece's feelings? That I should keep my identity private? I was merely following your wishes." As I spoke, I stepped closer, grasping their hands. "Uncle, Auntie, you are my biological parents, and I have always remembered that. My dad and mom have raised me for so many years. You are all my family, and there should be no division." The moment those words escaped my lips, they rendered them speechless. Shun's father was left breathless, his face flushed with anger, while Shun's mother opened her mouth but, seeing Shin Sisi's eyes welling with tears, ultimately said nothing, only sighed. Shun Machin pulled Shin Sisi forward. "Mom and Dad, Sisi did quite well too. Let us prepare her graduation banquet for tonight. That evening, the Shin family hosted a grand graduation celebration. Of course, it was solely for Shinsisi, as my identity remained undisclosed. At the banquet, the classic trope of the false heiress plotting against the true heiress was inevitable. I was eagerly awaiting it when Shinsisi approached me, champagne in hand, sauntering over. "Sister, congratulations on your excellent exam results," she said, smiling innocently. "However, it seems Mom and Dad aren't too pleased, considering you had the reporters interview you. If you cause me harm, do you think they'll kick you all out?" Before I could respond, she began to tip the champagne towards the staircase behind her. In a flash, my mother seized her collar and yanked her back, exclaiming, "Oh dear. Be careful." Shinsisi rolled her eyes in distress, being forcibly pulled back. Simultaneously, my father utilized his strength to secure her arm, and together, they restrained Shinsisi at the staircase. Just then, Shinsisi, still struggling, caused my father to slip and tumble down the stairs with a cry. "Old Lin!" My mother immediately sprang into action. As Shinsisi was released, she stumbled and fell onto the ground. I dashed down the stairs to aid my father, colliding with Shun's parents rushing towards us. Upon seeing that my father only had minor scrapes, I turned angrily towards Shun's parents, pointing, "Uncle, Andy, how could you do this? I've always said that interviewing anyone is my choice. Why did you instruct Shinsisi to harm my parents?" My sudden accusation left Shun's parents stunned. Shun's father was bewildered. "What do you mean I instructed her?" I looked down, feigning a few non-existent tears. "Just because you are my biological parents. Does that mean I should disregard my adoptive parents? They raised me for over a decade." The words left everyone in shock. Shinsisi was completely taken aback, as the narrative had veered off course. I stood up, trembling as I pointed at Shin's father and mother. "As long as you apologize to my parents, I shall overlook this matter. I still consider you my biological parents." Shin's father was the first to regain composure. "I am Shin. Why should I apologize to them?" Shun's mother chimed in, "And this must be a misunderstanding. This has nothing to do with us. We cannot apologize for matters that do not concern us." As I glanced upward, I noticed my emotional turmoil rising rapidly. Shin's father's chest heaved, his eyes red as he gazed at me. "Anin, you are being unreasonable. We are your biological parents. Even if they raised you for so long, you were born to us. Blood is thicker than water. Are you really asking us to apologize for them?" Shun's mother's tone was laced with restraint and sorrow. "Anin, it's one thing that you haven't addressed us as Mom and Dad these days, and we didn't say anything about you letting them stay in our home. But now for over a decade, we have never ceased to think of you. We have lived with guilt every single day, and now that you have returned, is this how you repay our hopes?" What a poignant declaration of blood ties. My voice trembled, yet each word was distinct. "Then let me ask you. Disregarding my biological parents, should you not apologize for orchestrating Shinsisi to push my father down the stairs?" Shun's father's face transformed from ashen to a deep crimson, while Shun's mother staggered back, pointing at me in shock. However, Shun Maching swiftly positioned himself in front of them, pointing an accusatory finger at me, bellowing, "Lin Yenin, are you ever going to stop? Our parents have already made enough concessions by allowing you to move in with them. What more do you desire? Do not take advantage of their kindness and create chaos." Meanwhile, Shinsisi was genuinely flustered. She certainly never anticipated that her scheme to frame me by claiming I pushed her would escalate to this extent. She incessantly insisted, "No, it's not true. Mom and Dad never told me to push Uncle." I was at a loss for words. Just moments ago, I almost lost my balance when Uncle and Annie caught me. And by the time I regained my composure, Uncle had already tumbled down the stairs. Internally, I screamed with frustration. Of course, she doesn't comprehend the situation. It was my father who deliberately fell. Yet, I had to maintain an expression of anger. I shouted at her, "You don't understand? How can my father fall down? Does he have a mental issue that made him roll down himself?" I abruptly turned to face the crowd of guests, pinching my thigh to suppress my emotions, my eyes reddening. "Dear uncles and aunts, brothers and sisters, did you all see? Because a reporter came to interview us this morning, and I allowed my foster parents to participate. My biological parents harbored resentment and actually made their adopted daughter conspire to push my father down the stairs.
Now,
I can't even demand an apology for my foster parents." The audience erupted in murmurs. Who would have thought that Shin Sisi was actually the adopted daughter of the Shin family? This one is the true heiress of the Shin family. The Shin family's actions were indeed unscrupulous. Regardless of the circumstances, they had raised their adopted daughter for over a decade. That fall was certainly no trivial matter. Indeed, the debt of raising a child is immense. It is rather petty of a prominent family like the Shuns to act this way over a mere interview. These discussions pierced through the ears of Shin father and Shin mother like needles. Shin father's forehead was already bulging with veins, while Shin mother's complexion turned pale, her body trembling slightly. Emotional distress value 10. Current total value 80. The system was more excited than I was. Host, that was brilliant. The public opinion offensive is effective. Keep applying pressure. Yet, I sensed it was time to temper the situation. If I continued to escalate things, I feared I would truly overstep. I took a deep breath, adopting a demeanor of both grievance and stubbornness as I fixed my gaze on Shin father and Shin mother. Speaking with unwavering resolve, fine, since you refuse to apologize, I shall take my leave. My foster parents have cared for me for so many years, and they will not tolerate your schemes. From this moment forth, I, Lin Yenin, shall have no further dealings with the Shun family. Having uttered these words, I averted my gaze from them, straightened my back, and took my leave with my parents. As we exited the banquet hall, my father could no longer suppress his laughter, exclaiming, "Oh, I nearly burst out laughing just now. You should have seen their expressions. It was like watching a play. They deserved it. If we hadn't intervened, their daughter would have been driven to suicide by them. What use is such a parent to him?" My mother spun my father around in a circle before finally exhaling in relief. "You scared me to death. I thought you genuinely fell down." Thankfully, it was just a few scrapes. "So, where do we go next, daughter?" I held on to them, one on each side, and declared, "Home, of course. Let us celebrate my achievement as the top scholar." We returned to our cozy little home, filled with traces of the original owner's life alongside her foster parents, radiating warmth. The original owner, Shirley, did not wish to return to the Shin family. That night, news broke that the Shin Corporation had driven away the biological daughter of the top scholar. The discourse surrounding the complexities of nurtured versus biological bonds, the aftermath of the true and false heiress, surged to trending status, igniting a frenzy online. Under various topics, netizens overwhelmingly expressed their support for us. I paid it no mind, focusing solely on preparing for my graduation banquet. However, the system grew anxious. It seems they have yet to respond. The emotional distress value has stagnated. I feigned nonchalance. What is the rush? The one who can truly strike at their heart has yet to make an appearance. 3 days later, we hosted a lively graduation banquet in our little courtyard. Neighbors, teachers, and classmates filled the space, genuinely coming to celebrate my success. I specifically invited a few reporters to capture the jubilant scene of our family raising glasses with our neighbors. Once the photos were shared online, they garnered a wave of praise. This is what a home should resemble. With such wonderful foster parents, how could the Shin family refuse to accept them? I believed they were being hypocritical. They could raise an adopted daughter, yet the true heiress was not allowed to be close to her foster parents. The comments truly resonated with me. Yet, at that moment, the system's prompt remained unchanged. The emotional distress value was still at 80. As I contemplated my next move, the following morning, a knock echoed at the door. Upon opening it, I found exactly what I expected. Shin father and Shin mother stood before me, bearing several luxurious gift boxes. Shin mother forced a strained smile, and "We were wrong earlier. We apologize. Come home with us. Let us live harmoniously as a family from now on." Shin father, maintaining a stern expression, added rigidly, "Your grandfather has spoken. He wants us to bring you back to the old residence." In an instant, I understood. Just as the novel had foreshadowed, the only clear-headed patriarch of the Shin family, Old Master Shin, had made his entrance. The original narrative had depicted Shin father and Shin mother concealing the news of the original owner's return from Old Master Shin. By the time he learned of it, he would only find the original owner's lifeless body after her suicide. Old Master Shin had adored her since her birth, and when she went missing, he was the only one who opposed Shin father and Shin mother adopting Shin Sisi, which had caused a rift between them. I feigned curiosity. "Oh, how did grandfather find out?" Shin father's gaze flickered. He saw the news. "And please come back with your mother and me, all right?" I internally snickered, yet maintained an outward appearance of hesitation, glancing at my parents. Dad, Mom, what do you think? My father grunted, Daughter, you decide. Dad supports you. My mother softly suggested, How about we go see him? We can't keep this stalemate forever. I nodded. All right, let us go visit grandfather. Upon arriving at the Shin family's old residence, old Master Shin was seated at the head of the table. Upon seeing us enter, he immediately stood up, bypassing Shin Sisi, who attempted to assist him, and hurried towards me. Minen, you have finally returned. He trembled as he enveloped me in a warm embrace, tears streaming down the face of this septuagenarian. I reciprocated, patting his back, calling out, Grandfather, I'm back. He then held my hands, peppering me with questions for quite some time before reluctantly releasing me. Finally, he turned to my parents. You two must be Anan's foster parents, right? He grasped my father's hand vigorously, shaking it. Brother, I cannot thank you enough for raising my granddaughter so well. She has even become the top scholar, bringing glory to our Shin family. He then turned to my mother. Sister, you have worked hard. My father, slightly embarrassed, replied, Old Master, you are too kind. Anan is our daughter. It's only natural. My mother quickly added, It was no trouble at all. Anan is very sensible. Old Master Shin nodded repeatedly. Good, good. Such honest individuals. Come, sit beside me. He personally guided my parents to seats beside him, while I took my place on his other side, completely disregarding Shin father, Shin mother, and Shin Sisi trailing behind. As the dishes were served, old Master Shin continuously served food to me and my parents. Having risen from humble beginnings and built the Shin family's fortune through sheer effort, he shared tales of the hardships of farming with my father and offered my mother advice on how to pickle vegetables tastier. Their conversation was lively and animated. Shin Sisi attempted to interject several times, sweetly calling out, Grandfather, try this abalone, it's very fresh. Yet, old Master Shin appeared not to notice. Turning to serve me another piece of braised pork, Anan, you must eat this. It was your favorite when you were little. Even Shin father and Shin mother's attempts to interject were interrupted by old Master Shin. After the meal concluded, our side was filled with laughter and joy, while Mr. and Mrs. Shin remained as mere background figures, their expressions grim and dismal. At last, I heard the long-awaited notification sound. Heartbreaking value 5. Current total, 85. Upon returning from the ancestral home, I knew the moment had arrived. In recent days, I had secretly investigated Shin Sisi and discovered that she was far from the innocent facade she projected. Utilizing the information provided by the system and the memories of the original owner, I swiftly gathered irrefutable evidence of Shin Sisi's campus bullying, including several clear videos and testimonies from victims. I anonymously uploaded this information online. The topic of the false Shin heiress bullying her classmates rapidly ignited public outrage, the circumstances being egregious and the evidence indisputable. The police promptly intervened, and Shin Sisi was taken away under a chorus of condemnation. Despite their desperate attempts, Mr. and Mrs. Shin were powerless to alter her fate. Next, I set my sights on Shin Machin. Taking advantage of my brief residence in the Shin household and with the system's assistance, I obtained concrete evidence of his embezzlement and illicit dealings. A comprehensive report was submitted directly to the prosecutorial authorities. News of Shin Machin, the temporary head of the Shin group, being taken away for investigation became the final straw that broke the backs of Mr. and Mrs. Shin. However, the Shin group did not collapse, for the true power lay with old Master Shin. Aware of his grandson's misdeeds, old Master Shin immediately pledged his full support to me. In this critical moment, I was entrusted with the temporary management of the precarious Shin group. Seated in the CEO's office, I swiftly stabilized the situation. Awaiting the arrival of Mr. and Mrs. Shin, the door swung open and they entered, supporting one another. Their hair now grayed and their faces haggard in such a short time. Mrs. Shin nearly collapsed in tears at my desk, exclaiming, Anan, now that Sisi and Machin are both gone, we can only rely on you. Your father and I depend on you for our old age. Mr. Shin, with tears streaming down his face, hoarsely added, Anan, blood is thicker than water. You are ultimately our flesh and blood. I set down the documents in my hands and regarded them with a calm demeanor, my expression devoid of emotion. Flesh and blood? I echoed softly, then laughed, a cold, sardonic smile. I rose and approached them, looking down upon them from my elevated position. Are you still living in a dream? To be honest, I never intended to acknowledge you. I endured your hypocrisy and played along in this charade for a singular purpose. I watched their faces turn ashen, articulating each word with piercing clarity to take over the Shun group so that my parents can live the best life possible. Now, the game is over. You hold no value for me any longer. This statement shattered their final defenses and illusions. Mr. Shin clutched his chest and began to cough violently, a trace of blood escaping the corner of his mouth as he trembled and pointed at me. You have been plotting against us from the very beginning? Mrs. Shun collapsed to the floor, wailing in anguish. What do you mean? You said you would acknowledge us just to ensure your adoptive parents live well. What else would it be? I retorted with a cold laugh. Was it for your cheap guilt or for Shin CC's unending schemes? As soon as I finished speaking, I heard the system's triumphant cry. It's done. Heartbreaking value 15. Current total 100.
Ding.
Heartbreaking value has reached 100. Ultimate mission completed. Reward settlement completed. Transport portal opened. You may return at any time. Mrs. Shin seemed to suddenly grasp the situation, lunging forward to grasp my clothing. No. You cannot do this. We are your biological parents. I took a step back, coldly evading her touch. You are indeed my biological parents, and you do love me. But can you honestly say you love me more than her? You have consistently chosen her over me at every turn. I shouted, as if to unleash the injustices endured by the original owner. Mr. Shin struggled to stand, his face ashen. So you never intended to acknowledge us at all? Are you only now realizing this? I pressed the intercom. Security, please escort these two to the Shishan nursing home. The paperwork has already been completed. Ignoring their anguished cries and questions, I ordered them to be taken away. Once everything was settled, I reunited with my parents. My mother looked at me with concern. Dear, are you all right? My father patted my shoulder. You did the right thing. Such parents are not worth it. If we hadn't come here, the current Nyenin would have been tormented to death long ago. I smiled and linked arms with them. Let us go home. With a flash of light, we vanished from this world entirely. As we departed, the true owner of this body returned, the original protagonist of the novel. She possessed all the memories and storylines I had accumulated during my sojourn. No longer was she the easily manipulated true heiress destined for tragedy. Gazing at her familiar reflection in the mirror, she softly murmured, "Thank you for everything you have done for me." Her fate was also altered. Occasionally, she would visit the nursing home to check on Mr. and Mrs. Shin, calmly stating in response to their hopeful gazes, "I will fulfill my legally mandated duty of support." But nothing more. She resided with her grandfather, who genuinely loved her, in the ancestral home, where the garden flourished with her favorite flowers. For her, this might not represent a traditional reunion, but it was the most equitable and comforting conclusion. As we opened our eyes, we found ourselves gazing at the stark white ceiling. A nurse exclaimed with delight, "Doctor, the patient in bed 3 has awakened." All 3 of us had escaped the brink of death, returning with a substantial reward to continue our blissful lives. The end. Thank you for listening, and we shall meet again in the next tale.